The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, better known as NATO, has been the cornerstone of Western security for over 7 decades. Formed in 1949, this alliance was designed to counter the Soviet Union's military threat during the Cold War. Since then, NATO has expanded its membership and evolved its mission. But its core purpose remains the same: collective defense against external aggression. However, recent years have witnessed growing tensions within the alliance, particularly regarding the level of US commitment. Former US President Donald Trump's repeated threats to withdraw from NATO if allies didn't increase their defense spending sent shockwaves through Europe. While no formal steps towards withdrawal were taken, his rhetoric exposed underlying concerns about burden sharing and the future of transatlantic relations. Trump's demands for European nations to contribute 2% of their GDP to defense spending, a target many still fall short of, have fueled debates about European reliance on US military might. The legal complexities surrounding a potential US withdrawal from NATO are significant. The 2024 National Defense Authorization Act mandates congressional approval for any presidential decision to leave the alliance. This requirement, however, hasn't fully dispelled anxieties in European capitals. The possibility of a US president circumventing legal obstacles or undermining NATO from within remains a concern. The US has long been the dominant military power within NATO, providing a nuclear umbrella and significant conventional forces. Consequently, the prospect of a US withdrawal raises fundamental questions about Europe's ability to ensure its security independently. Can Europe stand strong without the United States? This essay will explore the potential consequences of a US withdrawal from NATO, examining the state of European defense and the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. One of the most pressing issues surrounding a potential US withdrawal from NATO is the state of European defense spending. For years, many European nations have fallen short of the alliance's target of spending 2% of their GDP on defense. This has led to criticism, particularly from the United States, that Europe is not pulling its weight in the alliance. However, recent years have seen some progress in this area. Since 2014, following Russia's annexation of Crimea, European defense spending has been on an upward trend. Several countries have made significant increases to their defense budgets, and there is a growing recognition of the need for greater European military capabilities. While the 2% target remains elusive for many, the overall direction is positive. Despite these increases, there is still a significant gap between European defense spending and that of the United States. The US continues to outspend all other NATO allies combined, accounting for the lion's share of the alliance's military capabilities. This disparity raises questions about whether Europe, even with increased spending, can truly fill the void should the US withdraw. Moreover, it's important to note that defense spending alone does not guarantee military effectiveness. Factors such as military readiness, interoperability between different national forces, and strategic decision-making all play crucial roles. Europe still faces challenges in these areas, particularly in terms of coordinating its defense efforts and developing a cohesive strategic vision. In the event of a US withdrawal from NATO, the responsibility for defending Europe would fall primarily on the shoulders of its leading military powers, Great Britain, France, and Germany. While each of these nations possesses significant military capabilities, the question remains whether they can collectively counter potential threats, particularly from Russia. Without the US, Great Britain, a nuclear power with a long naval tradition, boasts a modern and well-equipped military. Its navy and air force are among the most capable in the world, and it maintains a sizable and professional army. Similarly, France, another nuclear power, possesses a formidable military with global reach. Its armed forces are experienced in international interventions and possess advanced weaponry. Germany, despite its economic prowess, has historically maintained a more restrained military posture. However, in recent years, Berlin has signaled a shift towards greater military engagement and increased defense spending. While Germany's military is undergoing modernization, it still lags behind Britain and France in terms of certain capabilities, particularly in the realm of power projection. The combined military might of Great Britain, France, and Germany is undoubtedly substantial. However, Effectively countering a resurgent Russia would require not only significant military resources, but also a high degree of coordination and a shared strategic vision. Whether Europe can overcome historical rivalries and forge a truly unified defense posture remains an open question. The spectre of Russian aggression, particularly in Eastern Europe, looms large over any discussion of European security. The Kremlin's annexation of Crimea in 2014 and its ongoing military intervention in eastern Ukraine have shattered post-Cold War complacency and underscored the need for a credible deterrent against Russian expansionism. Russia, under President Vladimir Putin, has demonstrated its willingness to use military force to pursue its strategic objectives. Moscow's military modernization efforts, coupled with its assertive foreign policy, have raised concerns among NATO members, particularly those bordering Russia. In a scenario without the US security umbrella, these countries would feel particularly vulnerable. The Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania, all NATO members, share borders with Russia and harbor deep-seated fears of Russian encroachment. Their small size and limited military capabilities make them heavily reliant on NATO's collective defense guarantees. A US withdrawal from NATO would leave these countries feeling exposed and potentially embolden Russia to test the alliance's resolve. Beyond the Baltics, Russia's actions in Ukraine have also raised concerns about its intentions towards other neighboring countries, such as Moldova and Georgia. Both countries have unresolved territorial conflicts with Russian-backed separatists, making them potential flashpoints in the event of heightened tensions between Russia and the West. Section 5. Beyond hard power, other geopolitical challenges. While Russia presents the most immediate military threat to European security, it is by no means the only challenge facing the continent. From terrorism and cyber attacks to climate change and mass migration, Europe faces a complex and evolving threat landscape that requires a comprehensive and multifaceted response. The rise of terrorism, particularly jihadist terrorism, has posed a significant security threat to Europe in recent years. Attacks in Paris, Brussels, Berlin and other cities have highlighted the vulnerability of European societies to this form of violence. While counter-terrorism efforts have intensified, the threat remains real and requires sustained attention. Cyber attacks, often originating from state-sponsored actors, pose another growing threat to European security. Critical infrastructure such as power grids, financial institutions and government networks are increasingly vulnerable to disruption or sabotage. Protecting these vital assets requires significant investment in cyber-security capabilities and international cooperation. Climate change, while not a traditional security threat, is increasingly recognized as a threat multiplier. The effects of climate change, such as rising sea levels, extreme weather events and resource scarcity, have the potential to exacerbate existing tensions and conflicts, leading to instability and displacement. Section 6, Expanding the Shield, the Nordic Edition. In a significant development for European security, Finland and Sweden, two traditionally neutral countries, officially joined NATO in April 2023. This historic move, prompted by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, has strengthened the alliance's northern flank and sent a strong message of deterrence to Moscow. Finland, which shares an 830-mile border with Russia, brings to NATO a highly competent military with a long history of defending its territory. Sweden, while not directly bordering Russia, possesses a strategically important position in the Baltic Sea region and boasts a modern and well-equipped navy. The inclusion of Finland and Sweden in NATO enhances the alliance's ability to monitor and defend the Baltic Sea region, a strategically important area that is vital for trade and energy security. It also strengthens NATO's presence in the Arctic, a region of growing geopolitical importance due to climate change and resource competition. Moreover, the accession of Finland and Sweden demonstrates the enduring appeal of NATO as a security alliance. It reinforces the notion that even in an era of geopolitical uncertainty, collective defense remains the most effective way for countries to guarantee their security. Section 7. Towards a more united Europe. The prospect of a US withdrawal from NATO has ignited debates about the future of European security and the need for greater European strategic autonomy. For decades, Europe has relied heavily on the US for its security, but the changing geopolitical landscape, coupled with doubts about American commitment, has prompted calls for a more assertive and independent European role in the world. France, in particular, has long championed the idea of a Europe that defends itself. French President Emmanuel Macron has called for greater European military integration and a more assertive European foreign policy, arguing that Europe can no longer rely solely on the US for its security. Germany, traditionally more reluctant to embrace a leadership role in security matters, has also shown signs of shifting its stance. The war in Ukraine has been a wake-up call for Berlin, prompting a significant increase in defense spending and a more open discussion about Germany's responsibilities in the European security architecture. A more united and assertive Europe in the realm of defense and security would undoubtedly be a formidable force. However, achieving this vision requires overcoming significant political and institutional hurdles. Historical rivalries, divergent strategic cultures, and a lack of trust among some member states continue to hinder efforts at closer European defense cooperation. Section 8. The Transatlantic Bond. Enduring or unraveling. The relationship between Europe and the United States, often referred to as the transatlantic bond, has been the bedrock of Western security and prosperity for decades. However, recent years have witnessed growing strains in this relationship, raising questions about its long-term viability. The Trump presidency, with its America First rhetoric and skepticism towards multilateral institutions, undoubtedly put a strain on transatlantic relations. Trump's criticism of NATO, his withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal, and his imposition of tariffs on European goods created tensions and eroded trust between the two sides of the Atlantic. Despite these challenges, it's important to note that the transatlantic bond runs deep. The US and Europe share common values, deep historical ties, and extensive economic interdependence. Moreover, public opinion polls on both sides of the Atlantic consistently show strong support for the transatlantic alliance. The Biden administration has made repairing transatlantic relations a top priority. President Joe Biden has affirmed the US commitment to NATO, rejoined the Paris Agreement on climate change, and sought to rebuild trust with European allies. However, the damage done during the Trump years will take time to heal. Section 9. A new chapter for European security. The future of European security is at a crossroads. The era of unchallenged US dominance is over, and Europe faces a more complex and unpredictable security environment than at any time since the end of the Cold War. The prospect of a US withdrawal from NATO, while not imminent, has forced Europeans to confront uncomfortable truths about their own defense capabilities and strategic dependencies. In the face of these challenges, Europe has two broad paths forward. The first is to continue relying heavily on the US for its security, hoping that the transatlantic bond will endure despite recent strains. This approach, however, carries significant risks. The US is increasingly focused on the Indo-Pacific region, and its commitment to European security can no longer be taken for granted. The second path is for Europe to embrace a more assertive and independent role in the world, developing its own military capabilities and forging a more cohesive foreign policy. This path, while challenging, offers the best long-term guarantee of European security. A more united and capable Europe would not only be better equipped to defend itself, but would also be a more valuable partner for the US in addressing global challenges. The journey towards a more self-reliant Europe will be long and arduous. It will require overcoming historical divisions, investing in modern military capabilities, and developing a shared strategic vision. However, the stakes are too high for Europe to shy away from this challenge. The time has come for Europe to take its destiny into its own hands and chart a new course for its security in the 21st century.